Y'all, I just got off of one of the best phone calls I have had in a long time. Let me tell y'all all about it. Okay, so one of the providers that I bill for called me to tell me that they just got off the phone with their accountant and they've been talking about, like, the revenue. And he just mentioned how the revenue has been really consistent since he's hired me as the biller and just how great of a job that I've been doing. And that's really, really, really humbling to me. And it makes me feel really good because after working in like the hospital setting for such a long time, you get used to not being thanked or being acknowledged for how important your work is as a biller or as a coder. It's so funny because when I work in the hospital, like amongst the revenue cycle department, we always joke about how we're the ones that bring the money in and we're the ones that keep the facility running, but yet no one knows that we exist. So it was real, real, real nice to hear the provider tell me that I was making a difference and acknowledge that my services meant something to their practice. And they feel like that without me, they would not be able to keep up with everything. And billing can be tough. It's a lot that goes into billing. So it just led me to think, like, what if there are therapists out there that just can't, aren't in a position right now to hire a biller? How can I still help them to feel like this therapist feels about their revenue? And of course, me being on social media and, seeing a lot of like therapists and seeing a lot of billers and coders, like, of course, I had to think about us and our community and like, how can I help? And because I have this platform, I was like, well, let me just share something. And so, really quickly, I want to share with you 5 common mistakes that's simple that you can do right now today in your practice that will help your revenue be a little bit more consistent, be a little bit more simplified, and to help to increase the revenue that's coming into your practice monthly. Now, like I said, these are common, simple mistakes in billing that I've seen that, if corrected or there was some sort of systems in place, that will help you significantly like avoid lost revenue or delayed revenue. So the first mistake that I see in some practices is having incorrect codes. So I just recently had a rejection on another therapist's claims, like, for whatever reason they may have clicked the wrong button, or I don't know what happened, but there was a lot of diagnosis codes dropped on a claim that, one, wasn't medically necessary for the codes that they were billing out, and two, they were incomplete codes. Like, they still needed more characters, but nevertheless, the therapist dropped the codes on the claim. And when the claim was submitted, there was a bunch of rejects. And when the rejects happen, that delays payments. Now, at this present time, she don't really have me submitting claims for her. She usually, how her EHR works, once she does the notes, she could just hit send claim and it goes to the clearinghouse. And she just really wants me to follow up on the claims, post payments, attack denials, check rejections, all the other stuff. But yeah, it was just a bunch of claims that went out, and I don't know what happened, but it was wrong and they rejected. So I had to go in there and work all those rejections. So that's just a small instance. Other things that I see with coding would be sometimes the wrong CPT code was used to correspond with the time that the patient was spent with the patient, and also just different place of service codes. Mental health deal with a lot of telehealth. There's 2 place of service codes that can potentially be used. Well, more than that, but most commonly 02 and 10. And sometimes the place of service 11 just falls on the claim when it really in conjunction with the um, telehealth modifier, and the claim will deny. So just little coding aspects like that is can delay payment. My solution for that would be to see if you could set up your EHRs in the case for telehealth. See if you could set your EHR to when you pick a virtual visit that the place of service automatically can default to either a O2 or a 10. Also, only create a favorites list of your most frequently used diagnosis codes. And if there happens to be an outlier, a patient that uses a diagnosis code that is not normally what you prescribe or what you diagnose in your scope of service, then it'll make you have to look up the code and enter it in manually, and you will see that either the code is incomplete or whatever the issue is with the code. But just set up a favorites list. Sometimes that helps. um those are my solutions for it. And if you feel like you don't understand if you can bill a code in a certain for a certain setting, if you have a biller, run it by your biller to see what they think. If you have a coder, run it by your coder to see what they think, or just kind of look it up. And another mistake I see is that the demographics isn't correct in the EHR. So a lot of these EHRs, especially in private practice, the patient get to enter in their own information. And sometimes patients can be kind of lax. They build up a rapport with their therapist, or they just have a name that they prefer to be called by, and they enter that in as their name, and not realizing that it's important for your name to match what's on your insurance card. Or sometimes they may leave off their surname, or sometimes they may incorrectly key in something. But the demographics is really important, because that will cause an instant rejection for a claim if the demographics just does not match exactly what the insurance company has. So my solution for that would be either to have the patient enter in the information in the EHR, and you go back and you double check when you do the verification that everything is correct, and make a checklist to make sure you remember that that's one of the important things that you need to check, so that your claim won't get rejected for something as simple as having the demographics wrong. You don't want to delay payments because the demographics is not matching what the insurance company has. Another common billing mistake that providers can make, and it's not really a mistake, but I think it's just due to lack of time, and that's to follow up on your denials and to appeal any denials that's wrongly denied, incorrectly denied. So denials is inevitable. Some denials, of course, could have been avoided, but there are some denials that just happens. And you have to work those denials. A lot of times a denial can be overturned if you just work it. You have to make the phone call. You have to research the denial if it's not something that you commonly can see or can decipher with the description. But denials are important because they are a part of your revenue. So it's really important that you work those denials. If you cannot do it, then you may need some help with that. So consider that, because denials is just money that you're leaving on the table. And with appeals, it's the same thing. Appeals is tricky because some appeals you have to send them a certain way. Some appeals you can just write a letter and submit the supporting documentation. But don't leave money on the tables because you have a denial or an appeal that you just don't have time to work. Find the time to work those. Oh my God, this video is getting so long. So let me hurry up and speed through this last one that I wanted to talk about, which is a big one, and that's verification of benefits. You have to verify benefits. My preference is to verify benefits before each and every appointment, but I know sometimes that's just not doable. But at least verify benefits before the initial appointment and periodically throughout the year for patients, because you never know when patients lose coverage. You never know when they change plans or anything like that. So make sure you verify coverage each and every time. If you fail to verify insurance coverage, you definitely will have a hard time trying to get a client to pay full price for your services when they were expecting insurance to pay for it. So they really didn't budget that in because they was expecting insurance to pay for it. You don't want to have to chase your clients and cause undue stress, to them already. My bad. I had to make that last point fast. But if you need more information, hit me up in the comments below.